Hello, Fritz.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
The Bears. The Bears.
I am the great Cornholio.
We'll see what happens.
The playoffs?
See, Sean McDonough, Jay Billis. Goats.
Can you play a song? Something cool. Put my mic on!
I'm calling both games.
Oh, baby! You so goes down the field for Smith.
Oh, he got it!
Seattle. We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
The Eagles are definitely having a good Tuesday, a good season, a good everything, as they won yet again over the Jaguars. They did have a deficit, but they overcame it, and now they're 4-0, the only undefeated team in the league. Zach, I imagine you are feeling quite happy about the Eagles.
Oh yeah, no, they're defying expectations by most accounts. I would say most people would think that Sunday's win was a good win. I would say it's the best of all the ones we've had. They showed that they can come back from that deficit. But I'm thrilled. The Eagles are playing well. There's some things to work on, as every team will have. But I have a lot more faith in this team than I have in many years. Probably going back to the 2017 Super Bowl team. So it's an exciting time to be an Eagles fan.
Yeah. Definitely, and I feel that energy resounding around campus, and not only from you, but for In the Zone, a lot of the MUTV sports talk show, a lot of Eagles fans around campus and even involved in MUTV, and Eagles fans are jumping right now. They are loving it, and I will say they are definitely excited, but I'm going back to last season. If I don't recall, I thought Jalen Hurts was awful. I thought Jalen Hurts was the reason that they lost the games and that he was no good, and Nick Sirianni was going to be the worst first-year head coach ever, and everybody was terrible, I thought. And this year, Jalen Hurts is the best guy in sports. He's the best guy ever to play.
Last year, we should have kept Wentz. We had no running game. Our running offense was terrible. Our offensive line was old. They were beat up. They weren't going to be very good. Our defense, our secondary was a bunch of no-name guys. Darius Slay was old and outdated. Our linebackers were the worst. You name it, they didn't like us. Wide receiving room was bad. We had Devontae Smith. Other than that, we have nobody. Now this year, all of a sudden, it's like we never had any of these guys, and we brought everybody in. And yeah, we brought in a lot of good guys, but I think people are starting to realize that they made these assumptions day one, and they weren't true. Jalen Hurts, he needed time under the offense. He needed to learn the playbook a little bit more, and he needed to build that relationship with the players. And once he has, the guy right now is looking like one of the best leaders in the league. On top of that, in the past, we had Carson Wentz. Did Wentz play very well for us for a number of years? Yeah, he was great. But when he wasn't good anymore, it came out that he was a bad leader. He was terrible in the locker room. Guys just didn't get along with him as well as many thought, and unfortunately, it showed. All respect to Wentz, great player, took us to a Super Bowl, and great, but he's no longer the quarterback Hurts is, and many Philadelphia fans just could not see that. They didn't care. They wanted Wentz back. Now Washington has a 1-3 record, and Wentz looks worse than I think he's ever looked. And Hurts is taking off. I mean, he's looking like a true Philly quarterback, and these guys are playing great. It's exciting.
Even last year, I have to say, I laughed at the narrative that they should have kept Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts was no good. Because if I recall correctly, the Eagles went to the playoffs and the Colts did not. The Colts lost to the Jaguars, who were one of the worst teams in the league last year, and that was the reason that Carson Wentz didn't take the Colts to the playoffs, because he couldn't beat the Jaguars.
He's on his third team in 3 years.
Yeah.
That says something about a player.
Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts took, in his first season, where it was not a rookie quarterback last year, but it was the first year that he was handed the keys and said, don't crash the car, essentially, and they went to the playoffs. Now, did they go far? No, but they still went to the playoffs, and I think that's more than...
They came back from a deficit as well. They had a losing record, and Jalen, obviously, became a running game, but he was a game manager out there. He led the team. That was his whole idea out there, and he led them to the playoff. They had a giant win streak, and they played great football the second half of the season. Competition wasn't great, but hey.
And part of that, a lot of people say, oh, they had an easy schedule. Well, nothing comes easy in the NFL. You have to go out and win every week, whether it's the best team in the league or the worst team in the league.
Exactly.
And nothing's going to get handed to you. And again, I don't know how much you really want to expect out of a first year, because Sirianni was a first-year coach last year.
Yeah,
Hurts was the first year that he was, the number one guy for sure.
Yep.
And when that happens for any other team, not too many times do you go to the playoffs. They went to the playoffs and, gave Tampa Bay. I mean, the first half of that game wasn't great, but they played a pretty decent game, I thought. It was not as bad as maybe what the Patriots and Bills game was. But, it was a legitimately decent season, and people were not happy. And I don't know how much more you want to expect out of that first year. And then this year, it's all coming together.
Well, and last year they showed that improvement, especially in that second half of the season. They went from not running the ball for the first, I think it was 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden they decided that they actually had an offensive line. They were going to run it, and they did. They became the top rushing offense in the NFL. They had more yards than any other team, which is the first time the Eagles have done that, and I don't even remember how long. So they found that identity. They realized that Jalen Hurts has great legs. They got rid of these deep passes they were trying to do and went for RPOs, and that's what they're still sticking to this season. And I think as the season went on, Sirianni found his footing, and he realized, and the whole team as a whole, I think, just they realized that they had really great pieces, and they just needed to find that. And in the offseason, they added A.J. Brown. Now we have a much deeper wide receiving core. We also got Zach Pascal, great third guy down. On the offensive line, we lost Brooks, but we brought in Isaac Salomalo, who's been on the team for years, had some injury issues. He's played great. A couple injuries, but fine. We drafted, having a blank in the name right now. I'm never great with names, and you know that. Who was it? Jordan Davis, defensive line. He's great. We signed Kaiser White. Really underwhelmed. People just don't remember signing him. Underrated, but he's played fantastic. TJ Edwards has been on the team for years. Is having a great season. James Bradbury, big signing we brought in. Hassan Reddick had 2 forced fumbles in the game on Sunday and 2 sacks. I mean, these guys that we brought in that nobody thought anything of have played fantastic, and I think they realized last season what pieces they needed, what they were doing great in, and what little bits they needed to bring in, and it's working. And we're seeing success in every little piece that we started to last year. They've grown upon that.
And I think leadership is definitely a thing that is much better right now in Philadelphia for the Eagles. And there's plenty of things that I took away from the Eagles' win over the Jags this past week. But the one thing that I just thought of now is that there's no ego issues. There's no one guy that's saying, "Oh, this is all about me." Everybody is chipping in. Everybody is playing for the collective good of the team, and everybody is just, as I said, doing their part and going to work.
Oh yeah, no, I know week 1 that there was 150 passing yards, 150 yards A.J. Brown had that game. And everybody was saying that it was only going to be A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith was going to get upset, and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown's relationship was going to be, that was it. It was Smitty, Kez Watkins, Dallas Goedert. They were just going to kind of be in the background. And they took that, they said, okay, so the next week Devontae Smith got all the receptions, and the week after that Dallas Goedert got a bunch. And every week they've shown they have these weapons and they're going to use them all. Not this week, but the week before, Devontae had 160 some yards, I believe, in the game. And they're showing that they have these weapons, and those egos, there isn't. Like you said, it's a team. They're the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. It's not A.J. Brown and the Eagles. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're showing that, it's that underdog mentality again, where they're here to win and they're here to stay, and it's nice to see.
And you kind of spoke to what I was about to bring up, which is a very good point, where I think this one thing that they proved to me, at least from their win over Jacksonville, was they can play a different game, where whether it's run or pass or whatever they have to do, they can make those adjustments. As we mentioned, good teams making adjustments last segment. These guys can make adjustments, and they can play a different game. If they, you shut down the pass game, all right, we'll hand it off to Miles Sanders. We'll run an RPO with Hurts. You're going to shut down the run game, we'll hit you over the top with Goddard on a short drag route, slant to Smitty, or we'll go deep to A.J. Brown right over your head for an 80-yard bomb.
Or Kez Watkins in the same way. Exactly. There's weapons. And somebody's going to be double-teamed. If you're going to double-team Smitty, then A.J. Brown's going to beat one guy. Or Kez Watkins going to beat somebody. Or they're going to throw Dallas Goedert. Like you said, there's always an option. And I think this, as you said, this week was a great example. And they were down. I mean, run game is not usually something you go with when you're down by 14 points. You pass the ball, you get it out quick. And they said, nope, we're going to run. This is what we're going with. They stuck to it. And Miles Sanders had 100 and some yards. I mean, we had over 200 yards running against the best rushing defense in the NFL.
And when they got down 14-0, some teams will panic and try to get it all back in one play.
Exactly.
And they didn't. They were down 14-0, and they, like you said, they went right back to the run game, just as what they would have done if it was a 0-0 game. And not many teams do that. There's not an inclination to run the ball when you're down 14 early in the game.
That's a clock kind of wasting. You do that, whatever. It's a play here or there, and they were going to prove that it was going to work, and that makes it more dangerous. Now you have Miles Sanders can run all over you. Teams don't know what to block. You also have Jalen Hurts, who can one of the better mobile quarterbacks in the league, and you also have Dallas Goedert, who they decided to throw the ball to behind the line multiple times, and he was getting first downs left and right. Like, there's so many things. Is it a run? Is it a pass? Is it an RPO? Because it's an RPO. As soon as you close in the quarterback, he's throwing the ball. And there's so many things. There's so many pieces of the offense. It's so much more complex than it has been in years to come, or it has been in years, and it will grow and grow in years to come. And I think it's, people are going to be a little bit more worried to play the Eagles if they continue on this trend.
I think they also showed confidence.
Yes.
That, if you shut down, say, A.J. Brown, it's not, I don't know if we can rely on Devontae Smith or Goddard to get a job done. As I said, you shut one guy down. I said, okay, boom, we'll just go to this guy. And, you want the whole team him? All right, we'll come back over here. We'll hand it off to Miles Sanders. And even Kenneth Gainwell has been involved so far. And, I mean, it is an all-around effort from the Eagles. They've proved that they can fix their game plan. They can make adjustments and play a different game. And also, they're not going to be afraid if they're down 14-0. They're not going to be afraid if they're down.
And they can play dirty.
And
they showed that on Sunday. They'll win whichever way they got to win. It doesn't matter. If one thing falls apart, they'll beat you down somewhere else. Whether it's defense and they're just going to hold you to nothing and they'll just score when need be, or you name it, they're going to find a way. And I mean that's what they need. And that goes back. That's a Philly thing. They're just they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll beat you where it hurts.
And the one thing about the Eagles that had been kind of a big issue for a lot of people was that the Week 1 win over the Lions, they got out to a huge lead. The Lions crawled back into it. And I think Week 1 I was more so on the boat or on the train that, okay, the Lions are just gonna be a tough team and they're gonna come back no matter what. And we even saw that last year. And a lot of people were freaking out saying, oh, the Eagles almost blew it, they're no good. And I was like, well, let's just hold off on that for a little bit. Week 2, blowout. Week 3, blowout. Week 4, they're down early, and a lot of people were saying, I told you, the Eagles can't do it if they fall behind. And now those people look like idiots because they can win more than just a blowout game.
Oh, yeah. And you'd also take Sunday's game. It was bad weather. They tried to pass. It wasn't working out. Jalen throws a terrible pick 6, and the defense can't stop the Jags. But you get rid of that pick 6, and the score's 7-0. And that's all the defense let up was 7 points in that game. Well, actually, I guess they let another 7 at the end of the game. So they ended up letting 14. But through the entire game, they only let up 14 points. It's terrible weather, and the last 7 was kind of just they're letting them get it so they could waste on the clock. It really wasn't – it was kind of garbage time, points there at the end. So I agree that, Eagles hadn't faced adversity before this, and there was a lot of doubts. But they're showing each week that the haters come in and they say one thing, and the Eagles prove them completely wrong. And the next week, it's the same thing. And they're proving that they're a lot better than people give them credit for. Competition hasn't been there yet, but yeah, you really can't ask for much.
The competition is right around the corner, though.
Yes.
As who you guys play this week?
Cardinals.
Cardinals. All right, so that's Cardinals
Second
haven't been
half
looking too crazy.
It depends. I mean, it's Kyler Murray. He's touch and go. He can have a great game one week and a terrible game the next. And I mean, it's they have their star receiver in Hollywood Brown, though. Man, he's a terrifying guy. You're a big fan of him.
It's a good thing he's not on a New York team, or else they'd probably call him Times Square because that's where the ball drops. Oh, sorry, that's Braylon Edwards I'm thinking of. But, look, whether you want to admit it or not, and Eagles fans are not going to be happy with me when I say this, you have to play the Cowboys twice. And I don't know what's going on there. We're going to get to that on the other after, in the next segment, because even I'm not sure what in the world is going on with Cooper
Giants
Rush.
as well.
And the Giants, too. They're 3-1. I'm not buying them yet, but you have to play them twice, right?
They're doing some good things, and that's also division matchups.
Division rival.
Always
They're
a
going to
little
give
bit
it
more,
everything they have.
And Cowboys Eagles, obviously,
a big rivalry.
big rival. I mean,
even the Giants Eagles. All the history there with the Deshaun Jackson punt return and everything we've seen there. I mean, a division rival is going to give you everything they have.
100%, and that's the biggest competition each year is when you play a division rival. They could be the worst team in the NFL, and you could be the best, and it's still going to be a hard-fought game, and it's always how it is because they know how to play you. And especially when they play it twice a year, they have more examples of what to go off of. They know what to expect, and they play you every year twice. I mean, it's they know how to play you. So and I don't know. It'll be an interesting look. Washington, I'm not too worried.
No, I don't think anybody is.
Giants, Saquon Barkley. That's gonna be a.
If he stays healthy, that's interesting.
He's having a great season.
And now the other thing with the Giants is
Offensive line.
and what are they going to what's the deal at quarterback? Because Daniel Jones got hurt last week's game,
Yeah.
and
Was
Tyrod
it
Taylor
serious,
also.
though? I didn't think either one was a serious injury.
I don't think
thought
it's
it
too
was-
serious, but they're still not sure. There's definitely some question marks around who's going to be the starter this week because Daniel Jones left the game and Tyrod Taylor's in concussion protocol. Which, by the way, one last thing, the concussions. It seemed like that was not like now everybody's getting concussions
because now
after
they're
Tua.
taking more precautions on it. Now, if somebody gets hit in the head, if they're calling it a concussion, they're just going to make you sit out a week because, I mean, the fear there's no way Tua didn't have that concussion, so they're just going to make everybody sit, and they don't want to get in trouble with everybody else. They're going to be NFL's going to be evaluating every team after this,
And I think they should, but I think it's just ironic how one huge thing happens, and all of a sudden the NFL cares so much about concussions, and it's like, well, maybe why wasn't
safety is
this
now a concern.
exactly? Why wasn't player safety and concussions taken this seriously before? This should have been how seriously it's been taken forever. It should not have taken Tua to be carted off on a stretcher
after his hands were.
He
looked like he was ready to go into a seizure.
looked like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, he was out. I mean, he looked like he was going into a seizure. I agree. They should not have had to wait that long, but unfortunately, it's too little, too late at this point. But I mean, who knows? That could be a season-ending thing. It doesn't seem like it's going to, but it depends on the severity of the concussion. He's out this week. Is he going to be out the next week too? They've already ruled him out, so who knows?
Yeah, I think it's definitely
a concern.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. And looking back at the Eagles, they going into the season, it was they're going to have an easy schedule, and to this point, you could definitely say that they've had an easier schedule. I don't think they've had the easiest schedule in the league, especially when you look at a Giants team who has played literally nobody, and that's why they're 3-1.
Well, yeah.
But whether the Giants are good or not, you still have to play them twice. It's going to be division rivalry. It's going to be tough, and the Eagles at 4-0, things are looking good, but it is far from over and far from we can't crown them yet. I don't think.
No.
Because there's still football to be played.
Oh yeah, we still have to play all of our division rivals. 7 more times? No, 5 more times. Sorry, bad math. 5 more times. We have 2 games against Cowboys, 2 games against New York, and we have 1 more game against Washington. And with Dallas especially, when you play in Dallas, it's not an easy game to play in by any means. So I mean, it'll be an interesting scenario, but for both. And like I said, Washington, I'm kind of ruling them off. They could beat us, and I wouldn't be the most surprised, but I'm not as worried about that game. When you play New York, the big worry is Saquon. Wide receivers is not a worry. I'd be more scared of Tyrod Taylor than of Daniel Jones. More potent with his legs, and I would say he's better accuracy. I don't think Daniel Jones is really that good.
I mean, yeah, I've said this before. The nickname on him is Danny Dimes. I call him Danny Ducks.
Yeah, he's bad. Yeah, no, he's no good. And with Cowboys, I don't know. I really don't. It might even depend on who's the quarterback. Is Dak Prescott, now obviously we're getting into that later on, but is Dak Prescott better than Cooper Rush? What's that offense going to look like then? And is it the offense right now, or is it the defense? In my opinion, the defense has been doing fairly well, and the offense is just getting the job done when they need to. But the defense is what's keeping them in the games. But, I mean, who am I to judge that?
What is going on in Dallas? The Cowboys of all teams are at 3-1. Dak hasn't played since week 1, and when Dak went down with his injury, he said,